As usual, we will be discussing important Arab file. Today we'll be speaking about the 32nd Arab Summit that took place yesterday in Jeddah, where the Arab leaders have expressed the full support for Arab joint action or Arab common action in face of all the regional and international crises that are facing the whole world. Yesterday, the president addressed the summit, and in his speech, he spoke about the importance of empowering nation states and joint Arab action to address the regional and international crises and in dealing with all the Arab causes. Quoting the president exactly, let me start with his first speech because it was very remarkable. The president said that it is evident to anyone with insight that preserving the nation state and supporting its institutions is an absolute necessity for the livelihood and future of people and their capabilities. And he also said that it was never accepted for the hopes of the Arab nations to remain hostage to the chaos and external interventions which only exacerbate instability and hinder efforts to resolve crises amid challenges, or rather amid challenging circumstances facing the whole region. We'll be speaking about the Arab Summit, the importance of the Arab Summit at this very critical time the whole region is passing by and the whole world is passing by, in fact. We'll be speaking about the Jeddah Declaration. We'll be highlighting some of the Arab causes that were addressed by the Arab leaders. We'll be speaking about that in our episode. Before we delve into our discussion, let's first have a quick look on the Arab news that took place during this week, and we'll come back for more discussion.
On the sidelines of the 32nd Arab Summit in Jeddah, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi met on Friday Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Prince Mohammed bin Salman welcomed President el-Sisi, expressing Saudi Arabia's appreciation for Egypt, its leadership and people. He also affirmed Saudi Arabia's aspiration to further enhance distinguished bilateral relations between the two countries in various fields. For his part, President el-Sisi extended his congratulations to the Crown Prince on assuming the presidency of the summit and expressed Egypt's wishes and confidence in Saudi Arabia's success in promoting joint Arab work in the future. The meeting discussed ways to enhance bilateral ties and sustain partnership between the two countries in a manner that serves the common interests and mutual benefits of the Egyptian and Saudi people. Ahead of the Arab League 32nd Summit, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi received at his residence in Jeddah the Tunisian President Kais Saied, where they exchanged viewpoints on a number of regional issues of mutual concern, the forefront of which was the situation in Sudan and Libya. The two leaders agreed on intensifying coordination in solving regional crises and regaining security and stability of Arab peoples. President el-Sisi said he's looking forward to enhancing ties and strategic cooperation with Tunisia towards sustainable economic integration and support for development efforts in the North African country. Separately, the president met with the Lebanese Prime Minister Najib Mikati, saying he deeply values ties with Lebanon on the official and popular levels and wished success to the Lebanese government in its leadership of the Arab country at such a critical time of the nation's history. Mikati, meanwhile, expressed his appreciation for Egypt being a key pillar in maintaining security and stability of his country and the entire region as well. He hailed Egypt's development experience being a role model to follow. The Arab League preparatory meetings at a ministerial level concluded in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia on Wednesday in attendance of the Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry. Meeting comes within the preparation framework for the 32nd ordinary meeting of the League on the leaders level. On the sidelines of the meeting, Shoukry met with his Algerian and Tunisian counterparts, discussing means of boosting ties and enhancing views over a number of regional files of mutual concern, particularly the Sudanese crisis, the Palestinian cause, as well as developments in Syria. Upon directives of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, Egypt continues to receive displaced Sudanese citizens through several border crossings. Egypt's NGOs also continue providing Sudanese people with all types of support, including logistic and health aid. Earlier, 2 military planes took off to Port Sudan Airport loaded with tons of medical aid to alleviate the burdens on Sudanese people. A senior UN official said the United Nations Humanitarian Response Plan is seeking $2.56 billion to help people affected by the crisis in Sudan, whilst the UN Refugee Agency is also seeking more funding to assist those forced to flee. Head of the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs in Geneva and Director of the Coordination Division noted that 25 million people, more than half of the country's population, need humanitarian aid and protection. He added funding requirements of nearly $2.6 billion is also the highest for any humanitarian appeal for Sudan. Egypt has condemned the Israeli break-ins at Al-Aqsa Mosque courtyards that took place in the framework of the so-called flag march in the occupied Old City of Jerusalem. Foreign Ministry statement slammed the Israeli nationalists and illegal settlers' provocative practices, which aim at upsetting worshippers and arising Palestinians as well as Muslims across the globe. The U.S. also denounced Israeli demonstrators' racist chants against Arabs. Tens of thousands of Israeli nationalists marched to Jerusalem's Old City on Thursday in an annual flag-waving march commemorating Israel's capture of it, as tensions on the Gaza border remained high. In Gaza, thousands gathered for a rival flag day on the Israeli border, many of them holding Palestinian flags. Israeli occupation troops fired tear gas towards anyone approaching the border fence. In another development, tens of Israeli settlers stormed Al-Aqsa Mosque amid heavy security measures by the occupation troops. The occupation forces also intensified their deployment at the mosque and near the gates. This came as Israeli troops launched a campaign of arrests and issued deportation orders from the city of Jerusalem in preparation for a parade by the Israeli settlers.
Welcome back, and to highlight the outcome of the Jeddah summit and the results so far, and definitely the statements of the leaders, we have with us over the phone His Excellency Ambassador Hussein Hariri, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Good afternoon to you, Your Excellency.
Good afternoon, Madam.
Yesterday was the 32nd summit that was held in Jeddah, and yesterday we have seen this very important meeting that comes at a very critical time in the region where unprecedented world challenges are occurring. How do you view the importance of yesterday's summit and its outcome?
Well, I guess the Jeddah summit yesterday, I believe it was a turning point in the way the Arab governments tackle and try to find solutions to the multitude of crises that has stricken the Arab world in the last 12 years. And in fact, the return of Syria to its seats in the Arab League is a testimony, testifies to this fact that a page in contemporary Arab history has been turned, and we can look with certain hope, with guarded optimism, to the next stage in in Arab politics and in the way the Arab countries deal with their problems.
Your Excellency, here, reading into statements, let me first read the statements of the President, where he spoke about certain very specific points. First, he spoke about supporting state nations and strengthening their institutions and the importance of that. He spoke about the Arab joint action or common action in face of regional and international crises as well. And he spoke about the different causes that need emergent or an urgent dealing with the situation. Let me here take your reading.
Well, we have, of course, followed the remarks by various heads of state yesterday before the Jeddah summit, including, of course, the remarks of Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. And all the heads of state have raised very valid points. And the sum total of these remarks taken together is that now the Arab states are conscious of the challenges facing them, and they have a very good reading of the causes that led to the crisis in the Arab world in the last 12 years. And one of the causes, of course, as the Egyptian president has outlined, was the interference of regional and foreign powers in Arab affairs. And in fact, such interference has been one of the main reasons why finding solutions to these crises has proven difficult.
Well, let me here read some of the main focus of the agenda, Arab joint action. And we have seen that being stressed by all leaders and by the President or President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. How do you view the importance of Arab joint action, and how did the Syrian return to the Arab fold reflect that importance?
Well, of course, the Arab consensus to readmit Syria to the Arab League, I guess, is a great success for.
Hello?
And as most heads of state said yesterday, the return of Syria would open the chances, would open the doors for a more forceful and effective way of dealing with the Syrian crisis. And I guess that in the remarks by some Saudi officials, they refer to some concerns on the part of the United States and European countries as far as the return of Syria is concerned. But they promised that they would get in contact with these countries in order to explain the background of the Arab decision to readmit Syria to the Arab League.
Here, we're speaking about...
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead. Yes.
Here we're speaking about an Arab solution to Arab causes, and how the Syrian return to the Arab League has reflected this importance and this work. We're speaking here about different crises, regional crises and international crises that are reflecting on the region. And the importance of Arab consensus in order to face the regional threats. Particularly, we're speaking here about Sudan, the emerging Sudan infighting, Libya, Yemen, Lebanon, and definitely on top the Palestinian cause, and of course other international crises that are reflecting also on the region. How do you read?
let me dwell on the Syrian crisis. To be specific, you may recall that during the Amman meeting of Arab foreign ministers of certain Arab countries, including Saudi Arabia and Egypt and Jordan and Iraq, a committee, a ministerial follow-up committee was set up in order to steer the road to a political solution to the Syrian crisis. And this Arab committee comprises Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Iraq, Lebanon, and the Secretary General of the Arab League. And this committee was established in the context of an Arab decision to find or to find Arab solutions to Arab problems. And as far as Syria is concerned, I guess the Syrian government has accepted such an approach, which was not a condition, but as you may recall, the Arab consensus towards Syria is based on a
step-by-step
approach. Step-by-step approach.
Yes.
Step-by-step approach that would be in agreement with the Security Council resolution, 2254 that was adopted in December.
The resolution, yes.
In December 2015.
Very much indeed. Very much indeed. Definitely we're looking forward for more of the Arab actions in order to be able to deal with all the Arab causes which are really a real threat to the security and stability of the region and the capabilities of nations. Your Excellency, Ambassador Hussein Hariri, former Assistant Foreign Minister, thank you so much for being with us and for your input here. The summit has dealt with several important issues, particularly the Arab causes, which the Jeddah Declaration has spoken about. But before we further discuss the issue, let's first have a quick look on this report and the President's speech before the 32nd Arab League Summit. Let's watch.
The Arab League concluded its 32nd summit by adopting the Jeddah Declaration, reaffirming the need for unity to achieve security and stability. The summit, which discussed various topics including the Palestinian-Israeli conflict and developments in Sudan, Yemen, Libya and Lebanon, convened in Jeddah and saw serious participation for the first time in over a decade. On the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, members reaffirmed the centrality of the Palestinian cause and reiterated Palestine's right to absolute authority over all territories occupied in 1967, including East Jerusalem. Members also voiced the importance of activating the Arab Peace Initiative, which the Kingdom proposed and the Arab League endorsed at the Beirut Summit of 2002. The bloc welcomed Syria's return to the Arab League following years of isolation and voiced hope this move would contribute to Syria's stability and unity. During a press conference at the end of the summit, Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan said the kingdom would hold discussions with their Western partners regarding ties with Syria. Washington and Europe have been outspoken critics of the Arab League's decision to normalize relations with the Assad regime. Regarding the situation in Sudan, where fighting has raged between the army and paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF, since April 15th, the declaration rejected foreign interference that inflame and conflict and threaten regional security and stability. The Arab League urged dialogue and unity among the warring sides. Last week, US-Saudi mediated talks between the two sides in Jeddah made a slight breakthrough after signing an agreement to protect Sudanese civilians. The top Saudi diplomat called on all sides to immediately stop the fighting and resume dialogue. As for Yemen, the Arab League reaffirmed support for all international and regional efforts that aim to reach a political solution for the years-long war. The war in Yemen has also killed tens of thousands of people and left millions dependent on international aid. On Lebanon, the Arab states urge authorities to resume efforts to elect a president, form a cabinet as soon as possible, and carry out economic reforms to overcome the current crisis. The bloc also voiced rejection for foreign interference in Arab countries' internal affairs. The declaration also said during the Saudi Arabia's presidency of the Arab Summit, which was handed over earlier by Algeria, the kingdom will strengthen joint Arab action in various cultural, economic, social, and environmental sectors.
Right, that was the Jeddah Declaration that issued out of the 32nd summit of the Arab League that was held in Jeddah, where leaders addressed several Arab causes and issues of common concern, particularly of the Arab unity and solidarity towards dealing with regional and international issues, the Palestinian cause, the emerging crises, and the continued ones. We're speaking here about, of course, Sudan, Libya, Yemen, Lebanon, the Syrian return to the Arab fold, the Israeli escalation in the Palestinian occupied territories, how to deal with international crises, and how the world community should be responsive to the Arab and the developing countries' causes. How the international crises are dealing having their own repercussions on the whole region, and more before we continue on with, or rather to highlight the outcome of the Jeddah Declaration or the Arab Summit in Jeddah. We have with us over the phone Mr. Ramzi Khouri, Palestinian journalist and political analyst. Thank you so much for being with us.
You're welcome.
And definitely atop of the Jeddah Summit was the Palestinian cause. We've heard yesterday President El-Sisi, while addressing the Arab Summit, saying that, or speaking about the irresponsible escalation by Israeli in the Palestinian territories, most recently, particularly in the Gaza Strip, and definitely the occupied Palestinian territories at large. Also the storming or the breaking into Al-Quds. The president also reiterated his continued efforts, or while he's stressing Egypt's continued efforts for stabilizing or maintaining the ceasefire and stability, he also warned that continued management of the conflict, militarily and security, will have serious repercussions for the Palestinian and the Israeli sides. The Jeddah Declaration adopted an important position, which was and will always be the constant one. How do you read the Jeddah Declaration in terms of what was issued regarding the Palestinian cause?
I think that the great importance of the Jeddah Declaration on the Palestinian issue specifically is to send the message to the Palestinians that they are not alone. Because in the past few years, the Palestinians were starting to feel alone. And with the emergence of a very radical right-wing government in Israel, that includes racist ministers, etc., the Palestinians were starting to face major challenges that are bigger challenges than the challenges that they were facing before in terms of Israeli aggression on Palestinian lives, civilian lives in the West Bank and Gaza and all over 1948 territories. But also, the Israeli government was moving extremely fast into the Israelization of Jerusalem and the West Bank, and this put the Palestinians in a very troubled situation. It was extremely important for the Palestinians to be able to hear unity from the Arab world on the Palestinian issue and support for the Palestinian issue and Palestinian rights. And this is exactly what happened. This is a very important summit on many fronts, not just the Palestinian front.
Yes, definitely.
What makes it important is that all Arabs attended, and the Arabs were able to come out with one voice. So the Palestinian issue was described in the declaration as the central issue of the Arab world for all Arab countries, and that message is very important to Israel. It's very important to the USA, to Europe, to the international community, to the United Nations. But most importantly, it's very important for the Palestinians to hear, because they really need to know that they are not alone.
Mr. Ramzi, here I really want to pinpoint my finger on this phrase the President or President Sisi spoke about. The irresponsible escalation by the Israeli side in the Palestinian occupied lands. And how would that bring about, or dealing with the situation militarily and security, will bring dire consequences on both on the two sides, or for the two sides. How do you read the statement?
No, the statement was very clear. The statement put the finger on the problem, and the problem is Israel. The problem is not the occupied, the problem is the occupier. The problem is not only that the occupier doesn't want peace and is not working towards a final resolution to the conflict. The problem is that this occupier is an aggressor that is committing aggressions, and there is a huge responsibility on the shoulders of Egypt that Egypt has carried through over year after year since the start of the problem. And if it wasn't for Egypt, I don't think that there would have been a resolution to the last conflict, where the Palestinians were getting really murdered in a place where they are sitting ducks. Gaza is not free territory. Gaza is surrounded by Israel and totally controlled by Israel. And the Gazans who are living in Israel are the people who are getting killed every time Israel needs a conflict, and the sitting duck is getting murdered in cold blood. And it's every single time it was left up to Egypt to interfere, to try to stop the Israeli aggression. So the Egyptian statement at the summit is a statement that comes from responsibility. Today, the lives of Gazans is the responsibility of Egypt. And with all honesty, the two states that are on the borders, namely Egypt and Jordan, their responsibilities towards the Palestinian issue are bigger than the responsibilities of the other Arab states that totally support Palestine and Palestinian rights, yet they do not have these borders, and therefore their responsibility in practical terms is less. In practice, it's Egypt especially when it's an issue that has to do with Gaza. It's Jordan, especially when it's an issue that has to do with Jerusalem and Al-Aqsa Mosque, etc. And so the statement was extremely important from that angle, the angle of practical responsibility, the role that Egypt has always played in trying to avert a humanitarian disaster in Gaza, and Egypt's ability to get the Israelis to stop aggression after aggression. It's been ongoing since the dawn of time. It doesn't stop. Every couple of years, we have what amounts to a massacre in Gaza.
Yes.
And the Palestinians are trying their best to develop the means to be able to retaliate, etc.
Yes.
But yeah.
Please continue.
When they do retaliate, Israel hits even harder. And who pays the price? The civilians. The women, the children, the infrastructure that affects the whole population of Gaza. And Gaza is an area that is overpopulated. You drop a bomb, you kill people. It's as simple and easy as that.
Yes.
It's the highest population per inch of land anywhere in the world. This is what Gaza is.
Indeed.
So
but
the responsibility
also
of Egypt there is huge, despite the fact that Egypt is not the cause or the reason for any of this that is going on. It's all Israel. And Egypt has to come in and rein in Israel, stop Israel from massacring a civilian population.
Yes, definitely, Mr. Ramzi. This is very definitely the Palestinian cause is on top of the Arab causes, or in the heart of the Arab causes. The return of Syria to the Arab fold, and how did that reflect an Arab role in finding a solution to the Syrian crisis? What message did the return of Syria send to the whole world?
Several messages. First of all and foremost, and the most important message, is that Syria is an Arab country, is an Arab state, and Syria is always going to be part of the Arab body. This is very important because the dismissal of Syria for so many years out of the Arab League created the impression that when an Arab state is in big trouble, maybe the other Arab states would will leave it alone and don't deal with it in an exclusive manner. So this is one major statement that was made. But there are other statements. The summit, for example, stressed that there has to be a political solution in Syria.
Yes.
It's not over in Syria.
Actually, solutions to all the Arab causes at large, because also they spoke about the Libyan issue, Sudan, Yemen, Lebanon, and definitely on top was the Palestinian cause. Mr. Ramzi Khouri, Palestinian journalist and political analyst, thank you so much for being with us and for your input. Now we leave you with the speech by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi addressing the 32nd summit of the Arab League in Jeddah.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi said empowering nation states and joint Arab action are needed to address crises facing the Arab world. In his speech at the 32nd Arab Leaders Summit in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia on Friday, President al-Sisi said it is evident for anyone with insight that preserving the nation state and supporting its institutions is an absolute necessity for the livelihood and future of peoples and their capabilities. The president added it was never acceptable for the hopes of the Arab nations to remain hostage to chaos and external interventions, which only worsen instability and hinder efforts to resolve crises amid challenging circumstances facing the region. He stressed that relying on Arab collective efforts, self-capabilities and integration among Arab countries is key to formulate decisive solutions to Arab issues. The head of state said the concept of joint Arab action should also extend to dealing with global crises and coordinating efforts to reform the global economic governance system. He added that at the heart of the system are financial institutions and international development banks, which should be more responsive to challenges of the developing world. Sisi said it was essential to consider that the state of the international polarization now threatens globalization systems, which was once celebrated by the world. He emphasized that it necessitates eliminating double standards in the application of international law. Tackling the topic of comprehensive peace in the Middle East, President Sisi said Egypt has followed with sadness and pain how some of Arab crises have escalated over the past period, particularly the irresponsible escalation by Israel in the Palestinian territories, most recently in the Gaza Strip. He said whilst Egypt reiterates its continued efforts to stabilize, calm, he warned that the continued management of the conflict, military and security, will seriously have consequences for the Palestinian and Israeli peoples alike. Sisi stressed it may be appropriate to reaffirm commitment to strategic option of achieving a comprehensive and just peace solution through the Arab Peace Initiative on the basis of resolutions of international legitimacy and demanding Israel ends the occupation and establishment of a Palestinian state along the borders of June 4, 1967, with East Jerusalem as its capital. Concerning Sudan, Libya and Yemen, the President also urged a quick resolution to the crisis in Sudan and Libya as well as Yemen. He said a new crisis in Sudan is foreshadowing, if they did not cooperate to contain it, a prolonged conflict and catastrophic consequences for Sudan and the region. He added the continuation of crises in Libya and Yemen requires the activation of joint Arab action to resolve these issues in a manner that is more pressing than ever. The President also welcomed the return of Syria into the Arab League as a step towards finding a settlement to the crises in the country and ending the suffering of its people. He stressed the return of Syria to the Arab fold marks a practical activation of an Arab role in finding a resolution to the Syrian crisis, according to international references including the Security Council Resolution 2254. President Sisi affirmed Egypt will support in all sincerity and honesty all real efforts to push forward joint Arab action.